Hello everyone. This is the guide for Drytron FTK, but it will focus on how the Drytron archetype works. As we all know, Drytron got nerfed really bad because both of the starters are limited to 1. Thankfully, Drytron monsters are level 1, and there are tons of decent level 1 searchers. The only unusable searcher is Jack in the Hand, because we're finished if our opponent pick our best cards, since there's only one of them each. But the other searchers are usable, so that's not a problem. Additionally, the Exceeds Drytron can search another Drytron, because it sends one Drytron card to the graveyard on summon. So it's okay to only get one of the starter, as long as there's another Drytron in hand to summon the Exceeds Drytron. So it's still very good even with both starters limited to 1, especially when Ben 10 is at 3 now. Ben 10 is insane in any ritual deck that can use it as a tribute cost, because it can search another copy of itself to be used as a tribute cost for another ritual, and after it's no longer needed as a tribute cost, it can either search Manju or Diviner of the Herald for a normal summon to search any ritual spells or monsters. With Ben 10 back to 3, it's now possible to ritual summon 3 times with Ben 10 as the tribute costs alone. If it's level 6 or lower, of course. But enough about Ben 10. Let's move on to the Drytron cards. Drytron, like other ritual archetypes, has ritual monsters, a ritual spell, and non-ritual monsters along with other supports. The unique thing about Drytron is their ritual summoning gimmick, where it uses attack instead of level. That's why it's absolutely broken when paired with Herald, since it can easily summon a level 12 with only one monster. Anyway, let's cover the non-ritual monsters first, since they are the core of the combo. All main deck non-ritual Drytron monsters are level 1 light machine monsters with 2000 attack and 0 defense, and they can take advantage of Ben 10 even without ritual summoning. Because the non-ritual Drytron monsters tribute a ritual monster or another Drytron monster to special summon themselves, which means we can trigger Ben 10 search with the non-ritual Drytron monsters alone. Other than that, each of the non-ritual Drytron monsters can be in 3 positions. 1. Hand. 2. Field. And 3. Graveyard. And there are 2 actions that they can do. 1. Tribute something to special summon themselves. 2. Tribute it for either ritual summon or other non-ritual Drytron monsters special summon. Certain actions are only available for certain positions. When in hand, it's possible to do both actions. When on the field, it can be tributed, but it can't tribute others, since it has already been summoned. And finally, when in graveyard, it can tribute others to special summon itself, but it can't be tributed. So the optimal cycle of each Drytron monsters are 1. Drawn in hand. 2. Tributed and sent to the graveyard. 3. Special summoned to the field after tributing something. And finally 4. Return to the graveyard after getting tributed for a ritual summon or another Drytron summon. So make sure to play our non-ritual Drytron monsters efficiently. With the universal mechanics out of the way, let's move on to the individual monsters. There are 5 non-ritual main deck monsters: Alpha, Beta, Gamma, Delta, Zeta. 1. Alpha searches a ritual monster when summoned by its own effect. 2. Beta returns a banished Drytron monster back to the graveyard when summoned by its own effect. 3. Gamma special summons another 2000 attack Drytron from the graveyard when summoned by its own effect. 4. Delta reveals one ritual spell or monster in hand, and then draw one when summoned by its own effect. And 5. Zeta searches a ritual spell when summoned by its own effect. Just from this, it's obvious that Alpha and Zeta are the best for combos, while Delta is good when we need to draw cards, and Gamma can be a good extender for more ritual summons. Beta is weird, because we won't normally banish our Drytron, but it's actually pretty good when played together with the ritual Drytron, or maybe when our opponent uses DD Crow. The absolute best card is Alpha, especially now with Ben 10 back to 3. Alpha searches Ben 10 to be used as the other Drytron's tribute cost for tons of advantage. So in short, it's the one that enables the 2 cards combo. That said, there's another monster, the Exceeds monster, New Beta Fafnir. This monster is actually pretty insane, because it turns 4000 attack ritual tribute material into 6000 just by overlaying into it. Why? Because it's possible to use its material as a tribute cost, and it searches another Drytron, by sending it to the graveyard, which means it potentially turned 4000 attack tribute material into 10,000 by sending Gamma to the graveyard. So in summary, 1. All main deck non-ritual monsters tribute a ritual monster or a Drytron monster to special summon themselves. 2. Alpha searches a ritual monster. 3. Beta returns a banished Drytron to graveyard. 4. Gamma special summons a 2000 attack Drytron from graveyard. 5. Delta reveals a ritual monster or spell to draw 1. 6. Zeta searches a ritual spell. 7. New Beta Fafnir plus 2000 attack tribute material and sends 1 Drytron to graveyard. With all of the non-ritual monsters covered, let's move on to the ritual spell. Meteonis Drytron is very simple. It uses attack instead of level for the ritual summon, but it can only use machine monsters as the tribute cost. The unique thing about this spell is the ability to ritual summon the monster from graveyard. So the best way to play Drytron is to send the ritual monster as a tribute cost for the non-ritual Drytrons before ritual summoning it with Meteonis. Other than that, this ritual spell can recycle itself by reducing the attack of a Drytron monster we control by 1000. The recycle effect is once per turn, so we can normally use it to ritual summon twice per turn if we have it in our hand. Do note that we can also search this card with New Beta Fafnir by sending it to the graveyard. It's not efficient, but it's possible. So the best way to use the ritual spell is to send the ritual summon target to graveyard first, as another Drytron special summoning cost for better efficiency whenever possible, because the ritual spell can special summon the ritual monster from graveyard. And now, let's move on to the support cards before the ritual boss monsters, because they are more important. There are tons of Drytron spell and traps, but we are only playing 2 of them, because they are the most useful. The field spell, Drytron Fafnir, can search any Drytron spell or trap, including the ritual spell. And it also has another effect of reducing a summoned monster's level to disrupt synchro or exceeds play, but it's mainly used to search the starter of the deck, Drytron Nova. Drytron Nova special summons a Drytron from the deck, but it'll be destroyed during the end phase. This newly summoned Drytron is perfect for another Drytron's tribute cost. So Zeta is the best target for Nova, and we can use the other searcher to search Alpha, which will use Zeta as its tribute cost. As previously covered, all of the Drytron combo pieces are level 1 like machine monsters. So it's still possible to play the archetype well even with both of the starters limited to 1. There are cards like Cyber Emergency and Where Art Thou to make up for the nerf. That's also why Drytron is so busted. These searchers can search those starters at -0 disadvantage, which means it's going to be super consistent. I've done a video for Drytron FTK with test hands a few months ago, and the deck only has 5% chance of bricking. So 19 out of 20 games are going to end with the FTK. That said, not all of these searchers are built equal, so let's cover them in detail. Let's start with the best, Cyber Emergency. It has no restriction other than once per turn, which is extremely good. The next best one is Drytron Nova. It special summons a Drytron to the field, which means the monster can't tribute anything to trigger its effect. That's why Zeta is the best Nova target, so Alpha can tribute it to search Ben 10, and later, Zeta can tribute Ben 10. And on top of that, Nova can also be searched by the Drytron field spell. The next one is Jack in the Hand, but it's going to be risky if our opponent picks one of our limited card. Basically we choose 3 cards. First our opponent will pick 1 to be added to their hand, and we are going to pick 1 from the remaining 2. So it's best to be used as the first searcher. And finally, the hardest one to use, Where Art Thou? It searches any level 1 monster, but it can only be used when we control a level 1 monster, in which this card is best when used together with Drytron Nova. So use Nova to summon Zeta, and then use Where Art Thou to search Alpha. The only positive thing about Where Art Thou is the fact that it's not once per turn, but it can't be used as a starter by itself, so it's better not to play 3 copies of it. So in summary, 1. Cyber Emergency is the best searcher because it has no restriction other than it's hard once per turn. 2. Drytron Nova is the second best because its only drawback is that the fact that it summons the Drytron from the deck instead of adding it to hand. Also hard once per turn. 3. Jack in the hand only ranked as the third best searcher because our opponent might pick the card that we actually need. Also hard once per turn. And finally 4. Where Art Thou is the worst because it normally needs 2 cards including a Drytron and a ritual monster or another Drytron in order for it to be usable, but it'll need only 1 card when used together with Drytron over. Other than those cards, there are other generic searchers that are expensive like Foolish Burial and also 1/1 and Small World that are also -1 on top of that. These searchers are good, but they are not even close to being the best Drytron support. As stated earlier, the best Drytron support is Ben 10 because it can be triggered just by using it as a tribute for a Drytron special summon. It's absolutely insane, especially now when we can play 3 copies of it. Anyway, let's move on to the Drytron boss monsters that we are not playing. They are solid monsters, but not as broken as the one we are playing. There are 2 of them. Draconids, the one specialized for dealing with monsters, and the other, Quadrantids, is specialized for spells and traps. Draconids can't be targeted by monster effects, and has a quick effect to send up to 2 face-up cards to the graveyard by banishing up to 4000 attack Drytron in total, 2000 for each card. It can even attack all special summoned monsters once each when ritual summoned using level 2 or lower monsters in total. Draconids is exactly why Beta has the ability to return banished Drytron monsters back to the graveyard, but it's mostly useless if we are not playing Draconids. Quadrantids on the other hand, can't be targeted by spell or trap, and it can destroy all of our opponent's spells and traps when ritual summoned using level 2 or lower monsters in total. It also has an effect to special summon Drytron monsters from graveyard with 4000 attack in total when destroyed. Again, both are pretty solid, but not that broken. Since we are done with the Drytron engine, let's move on to the FTK section. The FTK is actually very easy. Just summon Amor Factor Pain to skip main phase 1, and then use the skip traps to skip battle phase or main phase 2. Amor Factor Pain is our boss monster for this build. It's basically skill drain with legs, but only for fusion, synchro, and exceeds monsters. And it skips main phase 1 when summoned, in which it can be easily looped with the Drytron ritual spell. And as shown in the previous videos, this build uses Megalith as the other engine, because Drytron is nerfed for the event. There's already a guide for Megalith in the channel. Just watch it for details. It's posable to FTK with only Drytron cards, as long as we draw 2 Drytron monsters with different names including Alpha. If not, then 2 Drytron monsters including Zeta along with 1 ritual monster. And there's also a trick to unbrick our hand if we draw only Drytron over by sending it to the graveyard for a link summon. We can ritual summon Amor Factor Pain easily with a basic combo. First is just as mentioned earlier, special summon Alpha, the most efficient starter, to tribute Zeta and search Ben 10. Then from the graveyard, special summon Zeta by tributing Ben 10 to search Meteonis, use Ben 10's effect to search Manju. Normal summon Manju to search Amor Factor Pain. Overlay Alpha and Zeta to Mu Beta Fafnir to send either Delta or Gamma to the graveyard depending on the needs. Send Delta when we need to draw more cards, and Gamma when we need more ritual summoning material. Tribute Amor Factor Pain with Delta to draw 1, if we searched it earlier, but don't use Gamma, if we don't have other Drytron monster in the graveyard. We can then link off both Manju and Delta into Cross Sheep, if we need to draw more cards. Ritual summon Amor Factor Pain from the graveyard with Meteonis using Mu Beta Fafnir's material as the cost, if we summon Cross Sheep beforehand. Don't forget to summon Amor Factor Pain to his own Cross Sheep points to in order to draw 2 cards. Set Thunder of Ruler or Parthian Shot, and then end the turn. Activate Thunder of Ruler in the standby phase or Parthian Shot at the end of battle phase to skip most of our opponent's turn. Also, if there's no skip trap in hand, don't forget that this deck can draw up to 5 cards per turn. 1 from Delta, 2 from Cross Sheep, and 1 from Och, that can be summoned twice per turn thanks to Dynamondo's recycle. Check the replay of the combo for detail. That's all for the basic Drytron FTK combo. There are combos for less optimal hands, but I won't cover it in this video. because some of them are pretty easy, and Drytron combos are very linear. If everyone's interested, I will cover the full powered Drytron FTK combo after the event. It's far superior, because we can search the trap as part of the 2 cards combo, and even indefinitely loop the turn skip. The next video will probably be about another event deck. And until then, see you soon.